We're on.
Hey, everybody.
Hello.
How's it going?
Hello. Going.
All right. Well, this is our last task group. Can you believe it?
Can't even.
So I put the task group on the discussion page like a week ago. Did you guys have enough time to look it over? How are you feeling about it? Yes, no, maybe?
Looks great. I was able to review it.
Sweet. There's no like questions or anything.
No.
Okay. What are your guys' feelings about this being the closing of the task group?
Feel excited about it. It's good. Coming to an end. It says that they all should.
Lindsay's excited.
Yep.
Cindy, how are you feeling?
Very excited. Sorry if I have a visitor. She's sitting here next to me, so
She came at the best time because it's the last one.
She's observing. So. All
right, my computer's about to kaput. All right. So in the warm-up, as the icebreaker, I said list 3 words, 2 adjectives, and 1 noun to describe this task group. And then the example I put, all with the same letter. The example I put was savvy, sincere social workers. What, do you guys have any examples and why you chose those words?
I came up with one. I said interesting, imaginative intellects.
That was really good. Why did you pick those words?
Interesting because I actually have thought that this has been a relatively interesting project, and I think I actually have learned more than I thought I would. I said imaginative because I do think that we're a pretty creative bunch and have able to come up with fun task groups. I've had a really good time like hanging out with you guys and learning and talking about your experiences. And intellects because we're master level social workers. We like to learn and we're intellectual. So pats on our backs. Woo.
Woo. Cindy, what did you put?
Well, I picked S again too. I didn't get as creative maybe as Lindsay did, but I came up with sharp, sassy students.
Wow.
Yes. So I think sharp because you have to kind of like with being intellectual, like Lindsay was saying, we have to be really like on the ball and be thinking and be active and all that. And sassy because I think we all have to have a little sass to do this kind of work. To advocate, you got to have some sassiness, I think, to you. And then, of course, we're all students, so that's what I came up with.
Great. Well, mine was the savvy, sincere social workers. I came up with another one that was a G. There were 3 G's, but I forgot. So I'm just going to go with savvy, sincere social workers. I think we're really savvy when it comes to our own experiences, so that's why I use that word. I think within the group, we've been pretty sincere and honest with each other, and like, especially when it comes to listening to one another, I think we're really good at giving others time and being sincere in our words. And then social workers, because that's what we are. All right. So the closing phase of the task group is all about kind of like reviewing the task group and how it went for everybody, the pros and cons. And we'll just start off here with some reviewing of our accomplishments. So, Lindsay, could you tell me a highlight for you that the task group had? What was a highlight of the task group that you saw?
I think our last 2 task groups have gone really well. I think specifically hearing about everyone's experiences, and I think I like felt really good when we left our last task group, just because everyone was sharing experiences and positivity and things that like I talked about my big shout outs, and we were all talking about like what other people have done to like lift each other up, and how it's kind of countercultural for everyone to like praise other people, and that we need to do that more. And I just like felt like really uplifted after that, and I really appreciated your guys' participation and sharing kind of like your input on things. And so I guess that was kind of my so far my favorite part, and we'll see what today brings.
Cindy, what was the highlight of the task group for you?
Kind of along the lines with what Lindsay was saying, but I also think for us to be talking about too, sharing our experiences, kind of how we've had similar experiences, and how we worked through those possible challenges and groups, and how we can still even current task groups or work groups that we're a part of, and how it's playing out currently in our lives. I think it's really been good to bounce ideas off each other, and it's been really helpful that way. So it's been good to have these chats.
Yeah, I agree. I think a highlight for me, probably same as you guys, learning kind of all about each other and how we work best in a task group, and learning more about myself and how I'm going to participate in a task group in the future. And yeah, just discussing some of that personal stuff and really feeling supported by you guys when things are struggling. I know I've shared some struggles and some internship stuff. So just feeling supported by my task group as well has been a highlight for me. The next question is, where did the group struggle? I thought about this question a lot because I felt like we've had a really good group so far. And I didn't see a whole lot of struggles. I think in general, technology is a big struggle for me. So if it comes down to picking a struggle, I feel like, coordinating schedules and technology and hanging out on Google Hangouts could be an issue for everybody's task group. And that's something that I just felt like is a struggle for everyone. Cindy, do you have a struggle that you've had?
I think outside of like you were talking with the technology and trying to organize and just kind of plan everything, I think too, like I know for my personal, it was being the first one. I was a little like, gosh, I gotta kind of go out there and hopefully everything goes okay and everything set the tone right and everything. So I struggle with kind of like, okay, when you have to lead it, participate is one thing, but when when I was having to be the facilitator of it, I was just kind of like, oh boy. So I think that was a struggle, but I think overall, I mean, I agree too, Katie, that I don't think there's been too many struggles with like, I think we listen to each other and all that, but I just think sometimes with having to lead it, I noticed that as a struggle, and then like the technology and the planning and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Lindsay, would you like to share?
Yeah, I think that I definitely agree with the technology piece. I always tell people for my generation, especially, I am like awful with technology. And I know even like submitting the videos to Dr. Ross, he had to email me about like Cindy's I messed up on submitting, and also mine. He was having trouble with the link. So sorry, Dr. Ross. But so hopefully the third time's a charm, no issues. But yeah, so I definitely think that I couldn't agree with more. But also I think I am a huge procrastinator, so I agree with Cindy in like the facilitating part is a little nerve-wracking. But also just like having that being prepared and like submitting it to Dr. Ross and then also sending you guys an itinerary and everything like that. It's just so out of my norm. I'm very lost in it. And it usually tends to work for me, but in this situation, that's just like not an option. So that was just different. I don't know if that was a struggle, but it's just different than what I'm used to. So, excuse me. But I had a really hard time with that question too, because I think we have done a pretty good job and I've really enjoyed these meetings. And so, but if I guess had to say something, that's what I would say.
Yeah, I think it's hard when we feel like something's going really well, and maybe when Dr. Ross gives us feedback on the project, maybe he'll see something that we aren't seeing, so that'll be helpful to hear and stuff. But yeah, overall, I felt really positive about our experience. So in the illustration of the model of task groups in action on page 93 to 108, some of the things that they're talking about, there's 4 major themes that come from closure. And one is reviewing goal accomplishments and what we accomplished. The second is preparing for future activities. The third is reviewing the impact of group relationships. And the fourth is expressing appreciation, which I've kind of laid out in the agenda. They're a little bit not in the order that the book said. So the next kind of chunk that we're dealing with is prepping for the future. So the first question is, when did you feel the work that we did was best accomplished, and what worked well for us? When pertaining to our task and what our group was. Lindsay, if you want to share.
Yeah, I felt like the work was best accomplished. I mean, I think the action phase the action phase of all, this is going to be confusing, sorry. So Cindy, when she facilitated the warm-up phase task group, and then when I did the action phase task group, and now you, Katie, the action phase task group, I definitely think during the action phase of each individual meeting, was like what worked best. And I think we really were able to accomplish the goals that were really well laid out and everybody's agenda. So I think that was a really good thing for everyone. I felt like we left like accomplished. So that answer the question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Great. That worked well for us. Cindy, what do you think we best accomplished in this group? What was our biggest accomplishment or best one?
I think particularly with like our last one that Lindsay was facilitating, I think because we had kind of had one under our belt, I think that second one worked really well because we kind of had an idea of, okay, this is kind of our the process of what we're going to do and the procedure. And so I think we were maybe a little more comfortable doing it because we weren't all so brand new to it after that first one. And I think the major accomplishment is just how good I think us three work together with like listening to each other and like helping each other out and like including each other. Because I know I'm not the one to always volunteer right away. So it's good I think that we were all really good with keeping each other involved.
Yeah.
Throughout the entire, all 3 phases too, especially action, but all 3 phases too.
Yeah, I really reciprocate both of those feelings for both of those different views that you're saying. Something that I thought about and felt like was not our best accomplishment, but what something that kind of worked well, something we were able to do to help with the task group is we really took our team surveys and our strengths and really implemented them in each action phase, and we were talking about them really well, and we knew ourselves and we knew what we brought to the table, and then we could figure out what everybody else brought to the table too, and how we all connected and worked well in the task group, which I think it was the goal of this task group, is to know how you are in the task group, and now we know how we are and how each other. I think that's something that we really accomplished well. I know I learned a lot about myself and how I work in a group from this experience for sure.
I also think too, though, we did good with like tying. Sorry, I thought we did good with tying in like the string stuff that we did in the practicum class too. Like it's not just the one it's not just the one class. I think it's a culmination of everything that we're doing. So I think we did a good job too with including all of that together and kind of being more well-rounded that way too.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure.
Definitely. I think even to piggyback on that further, we were so perfect and compatible for like this group too with the Parker, the four, I'm missing the name, but we just all complemented each other really well on that. Like I think we talked about this kind of before, like if all three of us were challengers or communicators or whatever, I don't think it would have worked as well. But I definitely think like having that balance and having that like well-roundedness really worked in our favor. So yeah, Katie, I couldn't agree more with your initial statement for sure.
Yeah, we were really lucky, to be honest. I mean, we'd never taken that survey before. We had no idea. So we were just placed randomly and it worked out really well, which is super cool. The next question was, what was the hardest task for our group to complete and what didn't really work for us? An example that I thought of was maybe the initial starting of the groups. I think we all three maybe didn't know exactly what we were doing. And Cindy, thank the Lord for you, because you really started us off really strong, and that helped us build even more to the action phase and now to the closing phase. Like you can, that bell curve that they show in the book, like you can literally see it happening with our group. But like it's like you can see where we're going up in the action phase. Like it was really great. But starting off in any class group I think is difficult, and we hit the ground running, and it turned out really great. But I just think those first steps initially are just hard for everybody, What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I definitely, that's like, you couldn't have said that better. I had to go back and watch some of the videos, and you can see how stiff and like our whole demeanor, like the three of us in the first video, is like it's an uncomfortable thing. Like we're being recorded, and it's awkward to like hear yourself on the screen, and it's just kind of a weird new thing. And I think as like the first task group progressed, it definitely like even by the end of it, we all seemed a little bit more relaxed. And I know after the first one, we were all like, "Oh, deep breath! Like we did it, awesome! Like it's over." And then the second one, like I think we were a little bit more confident. And even coming into this one, I feel very comfortable and confident in our abilities. And I don't think that's anything anyone necessarily did wrong. Like Cindy, you were an awesome facilitator on the first one. I think it's just the nature of it being is like where I saw maybe a little bit of struggle or the hardest thing. But again, I think like everyone complimented each other so well that we just fought through the uncomfortability and being vulnerable, and we all just kind of laid it out there. So that's, I don't know.
I totally agree. What do you think, Cindy?
I agree too. I also think too, like I know when I was writing up the agendas and all this stuff, I was so worried about like time and all these things and making sure that it all flowed right and all that, and not just kind of trusting the process. I agree too. Like once we started to get in there, and I didn't even know that first time when we were like halfway through the action phase, I felt a lot more relaxed than I did at the beginning, because everything going through our mind was, okay, is this recording? Is this going to get sent? Are we going to have to do this again? I start thinking my worry where it comes out. So, but I think after we did that and got through that first part, I think that was maybe the hardest part for us to kind of get over. But once we started, like you say, that bell curve, it really started to work. And I think I don't think anything didn't work for us. We just had to get comfortable with it.
Yeah.
That hour is really, like that time is really daunting at first. It was like, how are we going to talk about stuff for an hour? Like I was so nervous about that. I'm really happy that you just said that, because I totally felt the same way. But I think like at the end of the day, we hit, I think, close to that or more than that on each one, and I felt really comfortable with our time. I didn't feel like we were like fluffing or like really struggling to get there. I just like it ended up being more natural than I even thought it would.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that naturalness has really progressed. I would love to. I haven't even thought about looking at the other videos. I watched the second one after you submitted, but I would love to watch that first one again now thinking about it. That's a really good idea.
A little awkward, so check it out.
That's funny. So the next, question that we have to kind of prep us for future task groups is, what do you think needs to be done to make a similar task group work in the future? And then the underneath says, describe a time when the group worked best for you. So that can be whenever, like in an internship, at a job, with us. Just, I'd love to hear more about your experiences within a task group too. All right, there's a train in the background, so sorry.
I think for a similar one is like when I think us three need to be together for most of our future, since we all have our very distinctive roles.
Right.
Go for that for every class we might have together. We need to do that.
Yeah.
I think just to make it, a task group in the future to work more effectively is, I think it really, that whole process and content, maybe because it was in the first part, that's why I focus on it so much, but like really setting the tone in that way of how a group is supposed to work. Even if you have very different personalities, I think like when Lindsay was talking about, if you have 3 challengers, I think 3 challengers could be effective, but they got to start off right, and we were just lucky that we had everything, between us 3. I think if it started off right and the tone was set better, I think you can have another task group that I think does work fairly well like ours. I think that's kind of what needs to happen. When did I have a good task group? Oh, this is years ago, but when the state of Minnesota went smoke-free, we had to come up with a plan for how we were going to deal with smoking on our campuses, and I got put in charge of it. So I forgot about this because it was like 15 years ago now, but I just remember it was because we had all started off on the same page, because we all had an end goal, we had to come up with a procedure for what we're going to do if people were caught smoking and all this stuff, which is really hard for addicts not to want to do, is smoke cigarettes. But I think we all had the same end goal, and kind of just, we were all really respectful of each other, I think, going in. And I think that was maybe the biggest component, is that there wasn't all that, nobody had one agenda, and it wasn't this my way or no way kind of thinking. People were very respectful and open to listening. So I think that when I've had to be a part or run a task group in the past, I think those were the 2 things that stuck out the most for me.
Thanks for sharing that. That's really interesting. That would be really interesting to collaborate and facilitate. Were there any people that you felt like it wasn't working for you? Or you thought everything worked really well? There wasn't any time that you guys struggled?
Wait, sorry, I had a hard time just hearing you. Will you repeat that? Sorry.
Yeah. So I was just saying to Cindy, that's really interesting to facilitate, and I was wondering if there was just any part of the group that you struggled with, or you think it all went really well.
I struggled in the beginning because I was put in charge of it, and I didn't really ask to be put in charge of it, but I stuck in charge because I was the most senior therapist there.
Yeah.
So I didn't kind of have a choice, but I would say starting off, because we weren't given we knew our end goal, but we weren't giving any starting direction from the, like, we had to find out what certain, patient rights we couldn't violate, we just didn't know where to start, but luckily it came about, because at least we knew where we had to end up.
Mm-hmm.
It had its challenges, but I don't think it was as bad.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, if you have anything to say, Kat, go ahead. Lindsay, I want to hear some experiences from you and what you think needs to be done in the future to kind of work well for you.
Yeah. I think I wrote like my little notes on here. And I said self-reflection was like definitely something that I think I like love self-reflection for myself and for like the world. I think it is so beneficial. And I do think it's really interesting that we went through and did our Strengths Finder in 615 and then also the Parker survey for this class. So we knew going into the group that we were probably going to complement each other well. But I wonder what it would have been like if we didn't know that, if that wasn't like an obvious point for us, and if we didn't go in with the mindset thinking like, oh, this is a good balance of a group, if that would have changed dynamics for us or not. I just was kind of thinking about that. But I think exactly like what Cindy said is that process content balance. I've said this before, I'm so quick to like jump into the content part of things and to like start like pressing and like whatever. And that's just absolutely not what should happen. Like we need that warm up and we need that process to like understand who each person is. And I really do think that is so important and so valuable. And so I guess I think that's just like really something that I need to remain cognizant of, because I know that that's really hard for me. I actually was just writing our journal entry for 615 too. Just like some of the reflection on how our internship has been going and what our goals are going to be. And I said in that journal that one of my like main goals in like not only my professional life but in my personal life too is to just kind of slow down. I'm crazy and write to-do lists all the time, and I feel like my mind is always going a million miles an hour, and just to remain like present in what I'm doing and to like fulfill that task like to the absolute most I can, before like moving on to the next thing and not like stepping back and reflecting or appreciating things. So I think that's kind of all like wrapped up in there. So Cindy, I agree with you, but that's kind of like sorry, that was kind of a tangent, but that was just on my mind. But the time when a group worked best for me, I wrote prepared on my thing, and I'm wondering what that even means. So I'll just talk about a different one that I know has worked. I've talked about this too before, is the care conferences at St. Gertrude's. My site is just so phenomenal because each person goes through and describes their role and how they're connected to the patient, who the conference is about. And I just think that those work so well because, again, we take that time to go through and explain who everyone is and what that process is. Who am I and who am I to that person? Exactly like what we've been working on in this. And I really think that makes a huge difference. It makes the families really comfortable. It gives like just a moment of like connection between the patient and each person that's in the room, before really delving into what this person's plan is going to be for like potentially the rest of their life. And so I just think that that's gone really well, and I'm really excited to be, I'm starting to facilitate those, and I'm really looking forward to be the facilitator because I think there's something special and unique to that. So, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. I've had similar kind of task groups like that where it's kind of focused on one particular client. I would love to be a part of something that Cindy was talking about where it's like a policy change. I think that's really interesting, and that's something that I've never been a part of, and I would love to have that experience. But if I were to describe a time when a group worked best for me, it would be kind of the same things, those IEP meetings, those client-centered meetings, where we would all come together. So I was a part of this agency before I came to grad school, and I was there for 2.5 years or so. And I was a skills worker, and we had these really large consults. You know, we have consults all the time in this profession, but we would have an agency consult once a month where we would all be in a huge circle, and we wouldn't all necessarily be connected to the client, we would all go through and describe our role within the agency, and then we would pick a case to consult on, and everybody would put their input based on what their role is, even out from an outsider's perspective, just to help, better the client's lives, which is what we're all trying to do. And it was really helpful to get that outside perspective. And with this smaller setting, like a client-centered task group, in a smaller setting, I felt the same way where if I feel heard and I feel like my ideas are supported, then that task group is really going to work for me. That's kind of how I felt in this task group. It's just I felt really valued and supported, and that I'm not like I'm doing a good job, and I'm not, my ideas are valid, and I really appreciate that, and I want to bring that to my next task groups, and I'm hoping that my coworkers will be just as supportive, and I will continue to support them too. You feel supported, and you should be supporting others too. It's not just a one-way street. So hopefully you guys felt supported because I definitely feel from you. Which leads us actually perfectly into our next little segment, expressing appreciation. So describing a time when you felt appreciated within a group, and what did that person do to express those feelings to you? I can go first. I can share. So recently I was a part of a case consult where I was presenting my case, and it's at my new agency, Counseling Services, and I don't spend a whole lot of time there, and I don't know the employees very well, just because I'm in grad school and stuff, and I'm really busy, so I don't really have great connections with everybody, which to me is important, but it's just something that I kind of need to prioritize for a later time, just because I have other things going on. So I presented my first case within the agency, and I presented a case on a kid who I just felt like I was really stuck, and I didn't really know where to go from here, and he wasn't really like working with me anymore. Like he was doing skills, and I was teaching him these things, but he just didn't want to participate anymore. It was like something happened and he just walked over, and I was kind of explaining the situation, and the council, everyone that was there, picked out like little things like, oh, Katie, he asked you to do this with him. He appreciates you. Are you doing the best you can? And like they were seeing things from a different perspective, and I didn't even see that way at all. So feeling supported by people that don't even know you is like one of the most humbling experiences, I feel like, just because these people don't know me at all. And they're picking up on things and picking up on my positive experiences, even though I'm seeing a negative lens, through a negative lens, kind of. So yeah, that was a time when I really felt appreciated in a task group, and afterwards I hope that I expressed to them how appreciative I was, and it's almost like a pay it forward kind of thing, like you feel this way at a meeting and you hope to bring it to another person, the same feeling, So that was my experience. Lindsay, do you have an experience you want to talk about?
Yeah, definitely. That sounds awesome. Like you seem so happy, like even talking about that. So it's so good to hear. But I just think at like a previous place of employment, my opinion didn't necessarily matter. Like we actually had a huge survey, like a corporate-wide survey come out. And one of the questions literally stated, do you feel like your opinion matters? And like, it was horrible. Like the response rate, like we ended up having a huge meeting about it. Our chief nursing officer came in and like talked to everyone and was like, your opinions do matter. I don't know why you feel like they don't. And we were like, we're floor staff and we know the patients the best because we're with them all the time, that our opinions and our like what we should change doesn't ever change. And And so that's kind of like a time, like I feel like after having that experience of feeling like whatever I said or did wasn't going to change anything was really disheartening. And so I think now, like even being at my internship, I feel so much more valued. And I'm an intern, right? Like you're pretty low on the pole there. And even so, like when I attend those care conferences, we had a really tough one on yesterday. And it was really interesting. And like we stayed behind after the patient was brought back to her room, and me, another social worker, a nurse, and a dietitian, yes, stayed back, and we were kind of talking about like our opinions on things and like what we do moving forward. And I've only been there a short while, but they were asking my input, and the social worker, like who's like heading kind of the whole thing, is so lost that she's like, I will take any suggestions, and like just like even like being there and being able to like participate and being asked like what my opinion is and what I would maybe consider doing was huge. And I think having that verbal feedback is really, really helpful. I also think that like in the last task group, I seriously left that feeling like so uplifted and so happy and positive. And like, I think like what you're saying, Katie, like that having that support and having that support reciprocated, and like, it's a give and take. And like, it just like, it felt so good to have that. And I just, I don't know. I just feel like that's something that like, I definitely want to continue going forward. And I want other people to know that like what they're telling me matters. Like, I want I want other people to know that like, their opinion does matter to me, and I will consider whatever they're saying in whatever role I am, whether I'm at the very bottom, at the very top. Like, I think it's important to have that open communication, and just kind of like what you're saying, the what is the words that you just used? Oh, I lost it. Whatever you just said was great though.
Can't be more helpful.
I'm losing my mind. I want to say random acts of kind. Pay it forward. Pay it forward. That's that's the one. But yes, that's like totally how I feel about it. So yeah, definitely.
Thanks for sharing that. I love that pay it forward feeling too. It just helps the world go round, I feel like.
It really does.
Cindy, do you and your cat want to share?
Oh shoot, I didn't see her back.
When you feel appreciated.
Sorry that she's back there.
No, great.
I actually kind of recently, I guess you guys have been talking them as care conferences. We call them a different name, but I think they're pretty much the same thing. We've had a very trying client at our facility who's heavily drug seeking, and now will even like snort sugar and stuff because he just wants some sort of ritualistic high from snorting. It's a very, very difficult case, drinking hand sanitizer, anything like that. So he's been very difficult, and he's psychiatrically not the most stable either. So we've just recently had a lot of meetings regarding best treatment options for him. And I've had, you guys have heard me talk about some of the difficult ones I've had. I think in the last task group I was talking about something, but this one was actually fairly positive about it, which just felt like we were, my opinion was more valued. And I think you guys were talking about that both in your examples, where you just felt like, wow, people were actually glad to hear what I had to say, you know, and told me that. And appreciated that I was there to do that, because it was like, okay, we're going through different options for him, and what can we do, what hasn't worked, what does work, you know, those kinds of things. So really just feeling like it valued. And I think what kind of stuck out, because I'm not the one that contributes or that speaks up as fast, you know, as a lot of other people do. Kind of the more people that were facilitating that, I appreciated that they asked me, you know, because it felt like I didn't feel singled out, but I felt like I was sought out, you know, not being, like I said, being more of the introvert. I just felt it was nice that they wanted to include me this time instead of the other times. So I think that's been a more recent example, I think, of how I felt appreciated. And I know going forward, if I have to be the one that's more facilitating those, I want to keep that in mind too, to make sure everybody feels included, even if they don't have a lot that they want to say, but at least that they're acknowledged, because I think that's a big part of how well you can work together in a group. So yeah, I did have a good experience in that.
I think like what you said about like being singled out versus being sought out was like, I just never even like thought of that, but that was like perfectly put. Like it's really, and there's a really fine line, and I feel like you would have to present that very well to not feel like somebody's single
Put you on the spot,
but like being sought out and like saying like, no, you're valued, and not putting like you in a vulnerable issue. I don't know. I think that was cool how you said that.
Thanks, Cindy. I'm so happy you had a positive experience. That's so great. And talking about expressing appreciation made me think of an idea that I want to just do at the end coming up here. So it's not on the agenda, so I'm going a little off course, so I apologize. But moving into the closure phase of the closure phase, we're just gonna kind of review like the group relationship that we had and our goal accomplishment again. What was your biggest takeaway from the task experience today? Task group experience. Anyone can go.
I think my big takeaway from the whole experience, like all the times that we've is I'm maybe a little more confident in that I can facilitate a little bit better. I know it'll be you got to practice, but I think I have a little bit. My biggest takeaway is that I can have a little bit more confidence in leading that, and so I think that's been what I've gained the most. I know that's the next question, something with gaining, but my biggest takeaway is that I don't have to be as scared of doing that, and that I can not just be the contributor too. I can sometimes do other things as well.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for sharing.
So I feel like my big takeaway from like today specifically is kind of how I was saying, like that self-reflection piece I think is so important, and that's kind of like what the closure phase is, and that's kind of what today's been about, is reflecting on other experiences and like what our other task groups looked like, and how even like now we're on today's, and I just think that piece is seriously so important, and I think it helps with, like I said, that slowing down and just kind of recognizing the positives and maybe some improvements or areas of improvement. But that's kind of my biggest takeaway, is like how truly important this is to like go over and kind of accept like where you're at. So thanks, Katie, for facilitating.
Thanks. I am so happy that I got to do this phase, because the more I was reading about it, the more I was like, oh my gosh, this is so me. Because when we were talking about balancing the content and process, I am all about the group relationship. Like I'm all about like getting to know someone, and my strengths kind of fit that same way. And even in the survey, the Team Parker one, mine was communicator and collaborator, which is all about the group dynamic. So it was so fitting that I got the closure phase, because when I was reading about it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is all about reflecting and all about our experience and our relationship, and I love that. So I was super excited to talk about this today. So, my biggest takeaway from today is, well, first of all, I was very nervous to facilitate. But just kind of the same as you, both of you actually. So gaining the confidence to lead a group that I feel so passionate about, like this agenda and this closure phase is something that really fits well with me. And I gained some confidence today in leading it. And I am taking away, like, it's just a humbling experience, you know, to come together and complete this, you know, and that's my biggest takeaway. It's just completing it so positively, because this group could have gone to crap, but it didn't, and it's cool. And we could have argued all day, but we all did great and worked well, and that's just, I love that. The next question is, what understanding have you gained from reflecting on group relationships and group conduct? Anyone? Get it out there. Anybody got anything for that?
Sorry. I think that kind of goes along with like what I've been saying. Like, again, that the whole like self-reflection piece. And I think even like, it's one thing to self-reflect in like your own head, because like I don't usually self-reflect like verbally. I just think about it on my own. But having like that conversation with other people and saying like, this is what I think I did well, this is what I think you did well, this is what I think we did well, is an accomplishment in and of itself. So I think just kind of that piece all like forming together and like having those conversations is so important. And I think, Katie, like you being the communicator, you do such a good job of like communicating that to other people and like making sure that that's, I don't know, that everyone's feeling valued. And I appreciate you as what you're doing. And I like this group a lot. So thank you.
I was thinking about it too. It's like from the Parker, I think we all got the phase that we were probably going to be the best at doing. Like I get
For sure.
I do the first ones because I'm the get her done person. I'm the contributor. You know, I'm like, you know, get out of the gate, and you know, Lindsay's the more of the challenger. So when we're action, we're going back and forth and coming up with ideas and all that, and challenging, and then bringing it all together. Is Katie with the communicator and all that. So I think we really went to where we were, and it worked well together, you know, like where our strength is. So, but I do think that the group relationship is pretty, you know, vital to the success of the group, more than just like the actual end product that the group comes up with. So I think that's helped me think more about, because I'm the goal-oriented person, and I think it's helped me reflect that I can kind of slow down and not be all about the end product. Yeah, so.
Great. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing, guys. I'm gonna maybe share a little bit too. What have I gained from reflecting? Well, I think you can gain from reflecting anything. Like if you're just reflecting, I think you're already winning at life. But when I reflect on this group and the goal accomplished here, like we had a tough time thinking about our struggles. Like that's how well we did. We not only learned about a task group, but we learned about each other and how we work in a task group. And when I first, sorry, Dr. Here I go. So when I first heard that we were doing a task group about a task group, I was like, this is the silliest thing I've ever heard of. I don't understand. I just thought it was so silly, but coming to the end and just reflecting on like what it is we really accomplished here is really, it blows my mind how everything worked out. Like we just picked randomly when we were gonna go, and we just our group was together randomly, and like I don't know, it couldn't have worked out better. And now my other task groups that I'm gonna be part of, I can live up to this one. So it's really cool that I have my bar set so high now. We've kind of talked about how it's going to help us in our future task groups, but is there anything you guys want to add about prepping for the future?
I think this was like a good way. I agree with you that at first the same, like when we were doing task groups about task groups, so like, what does that mean? Like, what are we doing? But I think this is like a really good way. So like, I feel like we have a deeper understanding of what a task group truly is and what it looks like at all stages in depth. And then moving into other task groups that are going to be a little bit more research based or are going to be a little bit harder to facilitate. I feel like a lot more prepared going in and like leaving this task group and this class and project behind. And so kind of like what you were saying too, Cindy, like just having that confidence of like facilitating one and really understanding what that balance of process and content should look like and everything like that. So I've actually really appreciated this project.
Yeah, I'd have to say, I think maybe I'm generalizing a little bit, but I think coming in, we've all been a part of task groups, so we kind of had an idea, okay, this is what we got to do. But when you're really like dissecting it,
Yeah.
I really dissected a lot of this stuff, like really looked at it at little bits, you just kind of look at the full picture. And that I think it has made me like even more aware of when I see like group interactions at my job or in my internship too, of just kind of like where people are at. So I think it's made me a little bit more conscious about the process of that and like the stages and how you can see that in different groups. So I think it's kind of maybe gave me a little bit more awareness too. And I think it's because we've so like detailed and like go through each thing specifically and talk about it more in depth than just kind of being more generalized.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I wanted, since we were talking about expressing appreciation earlier, and we have all sort of talked about how great each other are, I just thought it would be really nice to end on like what we've appreciated about each other and what we each brought to the task group, which I know we've talked about before, but I left the same feeling, Lindsay, last time. Like I felt so enlightened. And I just thought it was so uplifting to kind of hear and discuss things with you. And I really want to end this feeling great. So I can start off because I love this. Cindy, I'm gonna start with you. I think you're phenomenal, and the way you started out with the task groups, I mean, it set the bar so high. You were such a great example for me and Lindsay. I can't speak for Lindsay, but you were such a great example for me and how to prep for this task group. I honestly don't know if I could have done it as well as I'm doing it now without you leading it the way that you did. And it fits so well with your personality and your survey results. And even if I wouldn't have known that about your survey results or anything, I still think it would have been an amazing experience just to have you facilitate the first one. I see that you're such a go-getter, and I want to, that's something I'm personally working on, is like being more of that go-getter and creating the process. Because you're saying that you're creating the process, I would have no idea from the way you led that first one. It was so great. Like, what's that noise? Are you guys hearing that noise in the background?
Yeah, the feedback.
Yeah.
It just happened like the last like couple seconds.
Cindy, could you hear what I was saying? Because I said really.
I lost like your last few like sentences.
I really appreciate everything that you've done, and I couldn't have done it without you. And I am so thankful that you led it. The first one, like, beyond words, I'm so grateful. Lindsay, you're next. After your task group, I have never felt more confident and great about myself, and I kind of shared some tough stuff. Like we were kind of talking about things that didn't really work well, and it was so uplifting at the end, which I used that word before, but the way that you organized the group and kept us on track and communicated with us, and your ideas about bringing that positive light to our cohort and to this group is really your shining spot. Like, you shine so bright when you're speaking positively. I really appreciate that in my personal and professional life, and I really hope that whenever you bring that shining light to your agency or to wherever you're working, like, it shines so bright, because I don't want anyone to ever dim that, because it's so important what you're doing and how positive you are, and I really appreciate it so much.
Thanks. I'm like not a crier, but I like start crying. You're so sweet. I can go next. I totally agree with what Katie was saying about you, Cindy. Like, I would never have started off the group as well as you did. Like, I would have been so nervous, and like it would not. I felt like so in the dark, like going into it, and you just like laid it down, gave us the agenda. It was beautifully, like, I used your agenda, like, just to like make mine. Like, it was just like so well done. And I think, like, for both of you, just like the vulnerability and like and everyone's like openness has really propelled the group, and I just really appreciate how that's gone. And like Katie, I think for you too, like, your strengths are like so just evident in like what you do, and they are amazing. And I know, like, we've talked about not having strength envy, but seriously, like, the way that you make other people feel so good about themselves is like amazing, because you're so complimentary, you're such a good communicator, you're so good at like telling other people what they're doing well, and like even when you are like challenging, or even when you are like providing feedback that's like, well, maybe we could do this, like, it's done in such a beautiful way that I'm like, okay, I can do that. Like, I never feel like the slightest bit put down. I never feel like, I mean, nothing but positivity shines out of you too. So I really appreciate, like, both of you have been like, I've had an awesome time. I'm so happy that we're in the same cohort and like everything. So thanks, guys.
Yeah, I'd have to say, like, you know, Katie, when you talk about, I always pick up in like your passion for the relationship, you know, like making those relationships, you know, productive and healthy, and that people feel valued. So I really appreciate that about you. And I think that's really made, like, even this working together here, I felt very comfortable talking. And I'm, you know, I've, even in classes and all that stuff, I'm like, I know Katie will be, you know, I don't feel like Katie's gonna be like, oh, she said something stupid. You know, because you're always very supportive. And I was, when you talk about your passion for like working with children and all that, I'm like, you have hit the part you should be in so much. I mean, you really picked your, like, the population you work with, and because I don't necessarily have that kind of personality for that. And I'm just like, you just hit it on the ball, like, of what you should be doing. And I think you're gonna like do so awesome. And because I think you have such that warmth and care that I don't know who wouldn't want to talk to you. I think in a task group that is just like, if you were working with me now, I'd be like, oh, good, Katie's Katie's on my team with me. So, you know, I just appreciate that so much about that quality that you have. I kind of wish I had a little bit more of it too, but I just think you just exude that care and that warmth, which I think that strength is just, your wooing is just going to take you so many places with your woo, you know. So, and you know, Lindsay, I love how outspoken you can be, because I wish I had that, because it's not innate in me to be able to speak up like that. And I think you are so creative, and this goes with like that, you know, the challenging, is that challenging comes across though with creativity. Like when you were facilitating, I was like, wow, I would never think of that. You know, I kept thinking, I'm like, wow, she worded that great. That came out really good. You know, because I think with that challenging though, it's not a negative though, but I think you're creative and you come up with ideas and you think outside the box, which I think you know, when you talk about wanting to really work with mental health and like advocating for mental health, I'm like, oh, both of you have hit like the areas you're probably just gonna like crush. You know, you're just gonna be so awesome in that. So you guys have qualities I really wish I would have more of too. With we always want the grass is always greener on the other side too, but I really appreciate like how thoughtful you are with that, Lindsay, and how you bring different ideas that I would never think of.
Good, thank you.
Thanks, guys. I thought that was just a fun way to end, and it made me feel great. I don't know about you guys, but I feel really good. Is there anything else you guys want to add before we end this thing?
I don't think so. Thank you for everything, both of you. That was so nice. I'm so so happy.
That was good. Thank you guys so much. I've had an amazing experience. So, well, until next time, everybody.
All right, I'm gonna stop the broadcast.
Okay, bye.